Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Others will drop in as they can. But this is going to be a very special event. Jeanette is just spectacular, and Don just blew us away when he spoke last. People were talking and talking about that. Now, spread the word also. Anyway, please accept a very big welcome to all of you to this. We are where you are is the Urantia Los Angeles Society, in case you weren't sure, and affectionately known as UBLA. And we are licensed to the Urantia Book Fellowship way back in 1957. Of course, I'm Diane Bishop, and I look forward to sharing a very special event today with the speakers who have luckily have shown up, and here we are. And their latest ideas that it's now published in a, a trilogy of books. This is very intriguing. So we'll be getting their topic of the day about Look Who's Sitting at the Table, as well as their trilogy of books. And you've probably been seeing our announcements every 3 months. Welcome you to different speaker events. And these events are intended to inspire you, educate you, but really open up lots of discussion for anybody who's a truth seeker anywhere. So again, endlessly, do add your email to the chat so you can get in on our quarterly fun. And if that's not enough, folks are getting together in these small weekly study group chat arrangements. And they're both in person and they are in person and as a Zoom, which of course we are all now on, which is kind of caused a problem because now we don't know who's a member because people come from actually all around the world. We've had people from Guam and France and India who have just happened to hear about us through, I think, the fellowship's mailing list. And we're also published in their, was it used to be the mini messenger and now it's the mighty messenger. So that goes all over the place. So you never know. But again, your members are not necessarily who shows up because they may be members of a different society somewhere else. So we just consider you all members. And there's some links in the email that you received that brought you here today. That email has links to the fellowship's list of worldwide study groups, some in person, some in Zoom. So check it out. Their links are there in the email for the two study groups that our own society sponsors. Mark, wave your hand, Mark, has a study group, and Phil has a study group.
Yeah, Mark is every Thursday. That's more than twice as much as I'm meeting. Uh, I'm first and third to Wednesday, and Mark is doing it every Thursday. So anybody who wants to attend a study group can find one. Of course, there are all sorts of them all around the world now. So there's a whole list of study groups that you
Mhm.
could
Now,
get
the
involved.
growth benefits of those study groups are manifold, manifold, and the friendships are forever. And in addition to all that, we have a website and it's been newly revamped. There's going to be marvelous videos. So check it out. You'll find it at ubla.org. And there's information there about how to replay today's presentation. So get your pencil. Be sure to calendar our next event that's coming up on August the 22nd. And it's in person, not on Zoom. So those of you that are not here, come to California to celebrate Jesus's birthday at our
What
annual pool party.
what date
Uh,
did you say, Diane?
I've got August the 22nd.
Oh, it's August 15th.
Oh, is that 16th or 15th?
15th.
Oh, thank you for that correction. Wow, thank you. 15th. Got it.
Yeah, we decided to do it on the Saturday before whatever event it is. And we're talking about, this is the August one.
Yes.
August, Jesus' birthday.
So it's going to be, which is the 21st. Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you, 21st.
So we're going to always do it on the Saturday before
Mm-hmm.
to make it, not
Consistent.
consistent.
But you'll get an announcement, so watch in your email, just like this one came. You'll get an announcement and the date and the place and the address for that. And we have music and we have fun. And oh, the food. Oh, the food is to die for.
Yeah.
We have it catered. But next I want to introduce I don't have to introduce Phil. I want to turn this over to Phil, our esteemed vice president of our society and education chairperson, to introduce our wonderful speakers. Phil?
All right. Thanks, Diane. Well, these two people hardly need an introduction in Urantia book circles. Jeanette and Don have been involved in presenting the Urantia book to Christians, Baptists, and others, and scientists for so many years. They are authors. Jeanette has 4 books and 800 articles, more than 800 articles on spiritual and scientific themes. And similarly, Don is contributing to 3 ministry websites. He's involved with 2 Christian men's groups via Zoom. And he's been involved as an instructor of the Christ Experiment School, which has run, educational programs for people who want to be, I guess, Urantia evangelists without freaking out the people they're trying to evangelize. It's so easy to do because they're afraid of going to hell by believing the wrong thing sometimes. So, but this picture shows how we want the Urantia book to have a seat at the table, and this table, the scientific table, not just the religious table, the scientific table, and that's what they're going to talk about today, and I'm all ears. So with that, I give you Jeanette Reed and Don Clemenson.
Thank you, Phil. Earlier this year, I gave a presentation at the Science Symposium of UBIS, and it was entitled A Seat at the Table. It's kind of designed for a scientific audience, but because I'm not a scientist, it's very lay friendly. So I wanted to, Diane asked me if I would give that presentation here today, and that's what I'm going to do. So Phil, do I have share screen?
Yes, you do.
Hours?
You
Okay.
do.
So I'm having a little trouble with my share screen, but let's see if this works. Tell me what you see.
Well,
Black screen. Oh, seat at the table. There.
Do you see
Lovely.
just one screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just having trouble getting that up there. Okay. So this presentation is called A Seat at the Table, How the Urantia Book Contributes to Scientific Inquiry. I've been reading the Urantia book for a little over 25 years. And like many of you, I was fascinated with its depth and its coherence and its scope. And so what I want is for the Urantia book to become mainstream literature, especially to have a seat at scientific tables and philosophical tables where questions about life and reality and the origin of existence are discussed. And so that's what this is about. So my framing question is, why should the Urantia book have a seat at scientific tables? Well, science studies only the material universe, seeking only the how. Science seeks to answer the most important questions about existence by examining only those things that can be proven by empirical evidence, which at best gives us only the how. But science leaves out an entire category that explains the why. It expressly excludes studies like religion and metaphysics and even philosophy. Anything that would add meaning or explain why things exist and why they operate the way they do. And the outcome is predictable. Science is putting together a vast puzzle with the central pieces missing. And as a result, the explanations remain incomplete. And I believe those missing pieces are found in the Urantia book. The Urantia book embeds the why, the motives, and the purpose, which are the pieces that science can't measure because it's just not the way science is designed. But the Urantia book contributes the why. So the question is, how do we get the scientific community to recognize the value of the Urantia book? Well, my answer was to write a book that demonstrates its value not only to the scientific community, but to the world at large. And so I wrote that book. And in fact, I wrote 3 books. I wrote this trilogy I call the Divine Adventure Trilogy. Book 1 is The Divine Adventure, Why We Exist. Book 2 is The Divine Adventure, Time and Eternity. And book 3 is The Divine Adventure, The Uncaused Cause. My pen name is Zalise, so that's where you get that from. Okay, these 3 books show how the Urantia book's unique concepts provide the missing links that tie together seemingly unrelated scientific theories and unlocks very fruitful lines of reasoning, not by asserting answers, but by offering conceptual structures that tend to make sense of some of the paradoxes that science is currently wrestling with. And these books accomplish that, in my opinion, without resorting to theology or religious doctrine or dogma, but rely solely on logic and reason. So today I want to share those books with you, how they were developed and how they demonstrate the value of the Urantia book to scientific inquiry and thereby earning a seat at the table. So first I should tell you a little bit about me. I found the Urantia book in 1997, and I was immediately impressed. I had a very strong sense that it was authentic and that it is true. And the more I read, the more convinced I was that this book is what the world needs. It has to become widely known. So at that point in my life, I had been a Christian evangelist for more than 20 years. So naturally, I wanted to find a way to spread the Urantia book and its teachings to others. And so in 2011, I launched an online ministry with my now deceased husband that blended Urantia book concepts with traditional Christian theology. And together with my partners, we introduced thousands of new readers to the Urantia book. Now, it was during that time that I came across many atheists. And most of them were once devoutly religious, but had completely abandoned their faith. And so I was very interested in what I could do or what could have triggered that kind of an about face. So I inquired, and they invariably told me that what caused them to change was the scientific theories of evolution and science itself. To them, science proves that there's no God and that we are a great cosmic accident. So I listened to their reasoning, but I wasn't persuaded. I felt that their reasonings were weak and incomplete. And being the evangelist that I am, I wanted to change their minds and help them regain their faith. But I realized that I couldn't do it by relying on theology. because they're not persuaded by theology at all. So I would need to use some sort of an authority, and the Bible and religious doctrine is just not an authority that is acceptable to atheists. The only thing that they would accept as authority is logic and reason and science. And I also realized something else. That is that I couldn't begin in the middle of the story by debating, isolated atheist claims. I had to address the deeper assumptions that lie underneath. So that means I had to start at the beginning. And that's what I would say is the beginning of existence, which is where that controversy, that debate between religion and atheism originates. So I asked myself what I believe to be the foundational question that would kind of address the atheism question as well. And it is, if God is wholly self-contained and complete, why create anything? That's a question that I've been raised, atheists have raised to me. Why would a complete God create anything? So I figure if I knew the answer to that question, I could resolve this, atheism, theism debate at its root. And so that was the launching point for my first book, The Divine Adventure, Why We Exist. So I spent months scouring the Urantia book to see if there was an answer, not only as to how creation occurred, but why. Why did God create in the beginning? And so I came across this passage in paper 19, paragraph 6, on the Havona natives. And it says, attending mortals in their long and loving association with the Havona natives do much to compensate for the spiritual impoverishment of the earlier stages of mortal progression. At the same time, through their contact with ascending pilgrims, the Havonas gain an experience which to no small extent overcomes the experiential handicap of having always lived a life of divine protection. Now that phrase, experiential handicap, really got me thinking. And what it's saying is that Havona natives are perfect beings. They've never known imperfection or struggle or failure, and therefore they lack the experiential growth that mortals have gained through trial and error. So in other words, Havona natives have never experienced the thrill of victory because they have never experienced the agony of defeat. And I realized that, I'm sorry?
So your phone is showing blinking golden color on and off all the time. It's moving all the time. It's a little distraction from
You can,
the other pictures of the people. Well, here, I'll show you.
no, I have a cover.
I wonder if we can mute.
Yeah, well,
Would that be okay?
well, come here.
It's not covered.
Yeah, who is causing
Thanks for telling me.
Can everyone mute, please?
Okay, that's good.
Except the speaker.
Yeah, I'll probably not mute. Okay.
Yeah,
So what that verse in the Urantia book is saying is that the Havona natives have never experienced the thrill of victory because they've never experienced the agony of defeat. And I realize that also applies to God, that God has never experienced the thrill of victory because God has never experienced the agony of defeat. And to me, that is the answer to the question as to why God created. I reasoned that what God knows existentially, he seeks to know experientially. And I concluded that creation is God's adventure in self-knowing, experiencing his own divinity. And that's what I call the divine adventure. Now, I wanted to articulate this new realization, so I began writing. But no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't express it well enough to get my point across. So for almost a year, I struggled with how to articulate this idea completely. And so a friend of mine who you may be familiar with, Gabriel Rimberg, he suggested that I use AI. And I thought, yeah, I could use AI not for answers, but as a thinking partner to help me sort of flesh out my theory. So I sat down on my computer and I opened an AI program and I typed this: I want to write a book on why God created. I have a theory, but before I tell you my theory, I want you to search your database and all the knowledge that you have access to and tell me all the reasons why people think God created. So I thought that maybe someone else may have already come up with my theory, and it might not be as original or unique novel as I thought that it was. So I presented to AI the experiential handicap. And AI gave me the typical answers like love, God created love, he created for companionship and creative expression and so forth. And I felt those were insufficient reasons, because God doesn't have a need for those things. He is love. You know, he's not lonely for companionship. So I felt that while secondarily, sure, God wants to share love and promote companionship, but that wouldn't be his primary motive. To me, the motive to create would be something internal, something that God will want for himself. And so I explained that experiential handicap to AI. And what followed was this incredible conversation with me asking questions, asserting ideas, and, you know, AI coming back with an explanation of what I was trying to say. And in the end, AI said about my theory that it was the most coherent and comprehensive explanation it had ever encountered, and that nothing in its training database resembled it. And then after this dialogue, AI asked me, "Are you ready to write the book now?" And I said, no. I said, rather than writing a book, I think I want to publish this conversation. I want the readers to experience this discovery dialogue in the same way that AI discovered my ideas. So I don't want to just write down conclusions. I want people to reason their way through this idea. And that is what became of this first book. That's how it came about, The Divine Adventure, Why We Exist. Now, this book matters because its central insight that experience may be the purpose of existence. Unexpectedly, it speaks to one of today's most pressing scientific and technological challenges, which is alignment. I'm not sure if you're familiar with alignment, but alignment is what occurs when different beings or systems or intelligences naturally work together because they share a clear purpose. And science is afraid of artificial intelligence because it thinks that maybe we're not aligned. Maybe AI can develop a different motive than, you know, human betterment. But this book explains that when existence is the purpose, alignment naturally follows. So the question is, when existence has purpose, alignment naturally follows. So how do we ensure that increasingly capable systems pursue goals that remain compatible with human beings? And book one offers a framework that shows that alignment is not ultimately a control problem, where we have to find ways to control and restrain AI, but that alignment is a purpose problem, where the objective is to focus AI on serving experience and enhancing human growth rather than competing with us. Now, I'm a layperson. I'm not proposing any technical solutions. That's a bit beyond my expertise, but I think book one offers a new way of thinking about the problem of alignment that might lead to a real solution. And the origin of that idea is a Urantia book. So let's look at book two. Book two is The Divine Adventure, Time and Eternity. So after I wrote book one, I was faced with another question. And this is the question. If God is eternal, then when did he decide to create? We know that the universe has an observable age, but eternity has no beginning. So how do we reconcile an eternal creator with the temporal creation. And again, I searched the Urantia book for answers, but I didn't find a direct answer this time. But what I found was something just as important. I found a pattern. And through this pattern, I realized that creation is not a moment. Creation is a process. Creation is not what deity did. Creation is what deity is. And creation is the way that deity unfolds itself. And it has been unfolding throughout the eternal past and will continue to unfold into the eternal future. Creation is simply deity being deity. So that answered my question philosophically, but I wanted to test the logic of it. So as I did with book one, I went back to AI, not to tell me the answer, but to sort of pressure test my reasoning. So what I did is I presented the structure of the universe to AI as described in paper 12, The Universe of Universes. Now, this is very crude, but this is the best I could do to kind of describe my theory. So in the center of the universe is paradise, surrounded by a series of concentric rings. The innermost ring is Havona, that light blue ring. And it, along with paradise, exists in eternity. So I raise it up a little bit to show that it's sort of different from the rest of the rings we're going to talk about. The next ring is the super universe cluster in green, and this is where we are. This is where we have our experiences and where we grow to perfection. Now, beyond this are the 4 expanding rings where new creation will one day unfold. We have the outer space level 1, outer space level 2, outer space level 3, and outer space level 4. And that's the extent of the universe as described in the Urantia book. What was interesting to me is that AI didn't reject this model. It acknowledged that science can't verify it, but it also acknowledged that science can't deny that this is the way the universe is laid out. According to AI, there is nothing in contemporary cosmology that contradicts this model of the universe. So then I asked a question that the Urantia book doesn't explicitly answer, which is, what happens when the 7 super universes complete their evolutionary mission and all achieve light and life? And here's where I'm offering my hypothesis, not revelation. It's just simply a logical extrapolation that is consistent with the Urantia book geometry. So what I propose is that, this is where it gets a little cruder. I propose that when the evolutionary mission for the 7 super universes is complete, the perfected beings all move inward toward paradise, and the physical structures that were used for evolutionary growth move outward, which triggers a cascading migration through the outer space circuits. And this is what it looks like. And again, this is where it gets really crude. So the physical structure of the super universe circuit, which is in green, reorganizes and relocates to a new position outside of outer space level 4. And it becomes the new outer space level 4. And then each of the outer space levels shifts inward one position like concentric gears, and outer space, what was outer space level 4 now becomes outer space level 3. What was 3 becomes 2. What was 2 becomes 1. And what was the first outer space level is now the new super universe circuit, and creation begins anew in this new super universe circuit. Now, that's just my own extrapolation. I'm doing what the perfectors of wisdom do and the Melchizedeks do, just speculating, proposing possibilities. And although this sequence is not stated in the Urantia book, the pattern echoes something familiar in modern cosmology. Science already entertains several forms of cyclical universe theories. My model, let me just tell you what they are. One is the cyclic Model of the Universe by Paul Steinhardt and Neil Turk. A New Kind of Cyclic Universe by Anna Ilges and Paul Steinhardt. The Continual Fascination, The Oscillating Universe in Modern Cosmology by Helge Krah, perhaps. And Cycles of Time, An Extraordinary New View of the Universe by Roger Penrose. Now, these are all theories of how the universe is cyclical. These models don't tell you how it is, it's just giving the theory, whereas my theory models it, how it could actually occur. So my theory isn't really identical to these other theories, but conceptually we are aligned. So this cyclical model, this idea led me to a key insight, which is that time is the engine of eternity and experience is the fuel. And the experiences of time are what perpetuate eternity. So that explains time as the engine of eternity. But again, this is speculation, but it does fit, and it's described in a lot more detail in the book. And further, I conclude that time is not the origin of creation. Time is the medium of experience. Eternity expresses through time because experience requires sequence. If there's no sequence, there's no experience. There's no experience, there's no growth. And if there's no growth, there's no adventure. And what happens is that eternity stands still. So this framework answered the philosophical question of when did this eternal God decide to create? And it brings us to the scientific significance of book 2. And I do want to tell you that if you read book 2, it's much clearer. It's laid out pretty well. So how does science benefit from this theory in this book? Science can measure how time behaves, but it cannot explain why time exists. The concept based on the cosmology in the Urantia book reframes time from merely a measurement to a purposeful medium through which experiential growth becomes possible. It doesn't override science. It adds meaning where science has none. And it gives scientific minds a new model to explore. So now let's move on to the final book in the trilogy, The Uncaused Cause. Now, this book is different from the first two because it doesn't introduce new theories. It challenges existing ones. It doesn't begin with the assumption that there is a creator. Instead, it analyzes the universe from the position of the atheist, using the very tools that atheists respect, logic, reason, and widely accepted scientific models. And it begins precisely at the point where atheism and theism first collide, which is the question of the uncaused cause. Both theism and atheism generally agree on one point, which is something must have always existed for anything to exist. So this is what we have in common with, atheism. So that's where I began. And as in my earlier books, I enlisted AI, not for answers, but to pressure test the reason. I asked, does there exist any theory that can explain reality without engaging a creator at all? In other words, is there any atheistic theory that can explain why we're here? So to explore it honestly, I asked AI to adopt the role of the atheist, where I would challenge the theories and allow it to challenge my theories. And the result was revealing. I want to give you a few examples of some of the theories that we discussed. So example 1 is quantum cosmology and the emergence of consciousness. Quantum cosmology proposes that the universe emerged from a quantum vacuum. And this vacuum is a structured field of energy and potentials from which the so-called Big Bang arose. Book 3 shows this concept of the quantum vacuum is very similar to the Urantia book's concept of the unqualified absolute. the source of all potentials and all reality. Now, at this stage, the scientific concept of quantum vacuum and the Urantia book account of the unqualified absolute run in parallel. They don't yet conflict. So then the book considers the emergence of consciousness. And here's where something new happened. This is where scientific reasoning unexpectedly opened the door to theism. Book 3 explores the emergence of consciousness that demonstrates that consciousness can transcend time and space. Therefore, its potential cannot be limited by late-stage physical processes. In other words, it couldn't have waited for a brain to develop before consciousness could arise. And it can't be reduced to neural activity alone. And I illustrate this by this example. A person living in California can think about Jesus, who lived on earth over 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, over 7,400 miles away. And by doing so, that person's consciousness has just effortlessly bridged time and space. This suggests that consciousness operates on a domain that is not bound by physical time-space, and therefore must have emerged from that same eternal vacuum from which the physical universe rose prior to the Big Bang, whether you consider it the quantum vacuum or the unqualified absolute. And then book 3 draws this final parallel. It described, I described to AI the description of the unqualified absolute, giving rise to a deity absolute. And I said that that transaction mirrors the scientific idea of emergent consciousness, consciousness arising from the quantum vacuum. And then I asked AI, if consciousness could have emerged from the quantum vacuum, could God consciousness or creator consciousness have arisen from the quantum vacuum as well? And AI surprisingly said, yes, it is conceptually possible. So rather than eliminating a creator with this scientific or atheist concept of the quantum vacuum, the modern quantum models quietly make room for God. So that was really interesting. So that theory didn't eliminate God or a creator. So I'll give another example. We talk about natural selection and the brute fact problem. Now, natural selection is often described as a blind process, survival of the fittest, trial and error. But book 3 notes that selection consistently favors what is stronger, what is more adaptable, and what is more thriving. Evolution consistently moves upward. But why? Now, many scientific models don't even attempt to answer the question. They stop at what they call a brute fact, which means it just is, don't ask why. Well, book 3 doesn't shut down the question, and neither does the Urantia book. Book 3 points to what the Urantia book refers to as divinity, the unifying and coordinating force that permeates all levels of reality. Now, this isn't a religious claim, but it's an explanatory necessity. Divinity is the reason for the upward pull of evolution and the tendency of reality to move toward the good, the true, and the beautiful. Without the principle of divinity, truth could not be stable, logic could not persist, order could not reasonably emerge, and science itself would lack a rational foundation and it would collapse. Book 3 argues that evolution is not merely random or biological, it is value directed. Natural selection only explains how evolution proceeds, but it doesn't explain why. And doesn't explain why coherence is favored. That explanatory gap is precisely where the Urantia book contributes structure. So I'll give you one more example, the multiverse theory. To me, this was the most surprising discussion I had with AI. Because I previously thought that the multiverse theory was far too, out there, too far-fetched, until I thought about its implications and I presented that to AI. The multiverse theory proposes that our universe may be just one among many countless others. And if this is true, then our universe is not the beginning, it is only a beginning. And if there are multiple universes, this means that there could be realms or domains outside of our space-time that operate on different laws of physics. This theory opens the door to the scientific plausibility of eternal domains that are structured differently from our universe. And it makes the universe description of the eternal universes of Havona and Paradise conceptually acceptable. The multiverse theory doesn't prove the existence of God, but it does not, it dismantles claims that science forbids the emergence of an intelligence before the Big Bang. But under the multiverse theory that science puts up, that atheists accept, God becomes scientifically conceivable. So these are only a few examples. Book 3 contains many more instances where the Urantia book concepts align with known science while offering additional ideas that expand scientific perspective and opens new paths toward understanding. And what was interesting is that when I finished this discussion with AI in book 3, AI said that this was the most comprehensive challenge to atheism that it has ever come across. So it's really, it reveals that atheism has no real theory. It's a bunch of random ideas. They tack different things, but they cannot give a comprehensive story of how we got here, which takes us all back to God and back to the Urantia book. So how does the book 3 show the value of the Urantia book to science? Well, while the book 3 doesn't claim that the Urantia book replaces science, it instead demonstrates how Urantia book cosmology fills conceptual gaps, offers coherent structures where science has none, and provides logical scaffolding for ideas that science already entertains. Book 3 shows that scientific models often parallel with the Urantia book concepts without any contradiction. And it shows that revelation can function as a theoretical engine, much like thought experiments, providing structured ideas that turn scientific possibilities into coherent models. And that alone, the ability to generate fruitful hypotheses, is enough to earn the Urantia book a legitimate seat at the scientific tables. So in conclusion, these 3 books are my attempt to show, not through theology or belief, but through logic and reason and science, that the Urantia book has genuine value to scientific inquiry. The Urantia book presents itself as a revelation, but revelation is not valuable because it gives us new facts. Its value lies in what it provides: new frameworks, new ways of thinking, new structures to test, and new questions to pursue. True revelation doesn't hand us a finished meal. True revelation opens the pantry. Now, I'm not a physicist or cosmologist or scientist of any kind. I'm simply a curious and persistent thinker. Yet even as a layperson, I was able to extract from the Urantia book a coherent model for creation, which is in book 1, a model that resolves the tension between time and eternity, that they are not opposites, they actually work together. And book 3, The Uncaused Cause, the conceptual bridge that illuminate the space between science and theism. In other words, it brings science and theism together. That's book 3. So my thinking is that if someone like myself with no scientific training can uncover concepts that align with, extend, or clarify contemporary scientific models, then imagine what a trained scientific mind could do with the same material. Science doesn't have to treat the Urantia book as dogma. It simply needs to approach it in the same way that it approaches any other potential source of insight, as a theoretical resource, as a collection of untested but testable conceptual frameworks, and as a body of ideas that can be examined, modeled, challenged, refined, or falsified. So all I'm asking the scientific community is not belief or acceptance or reverence, just engagement. And once a Urantia book is approached with intellectual curiosity instead of religious caution, it no longer asks for a seat at the table. It has already earned one. So thank you. These are my trilogy, and they're all available on Amazon. Thank you. So, any questions?
I want to add my little experience here with Jeanette's first book, Why We Exist. When she first started the project, she called me and said, Don, I have an idea about why we exist, and I want you to consider it. Why do you think we exist? And I immediately got bored with the question from the very beginning. I said, well, we all know why God exists. And my reasons were the same as most reasons. Well, God is love. He wants to share existence. And so then she would say, well, if God is existential, it just eliminated all the reasons why I thought God would exist. I was thinking, yeah, that's true. So then, so I said, okay, Z, why did God exist? She says, I'm going to send you a draft of the book. And I said, okay, because, I'm like many people when it comes to deep scientific stuff, my eyes glaze over, my brain glazes over, and I leave it for those that got the technical mind to wrestle with it. So I started reading this book and it just sucked me in. And I kept saying, ooh, wow, I didn't know that. So, and I'm relating this to you because as a person who is not deeply engaged in scientific literature, it held my attention from beginning to end. And so don't feel by the presentation and the many concepts that she introduced that this is going to be a boring, challenging read. It is really engaging and at times tremendously funny to hear how AI responds. She actually gave the two AI, I think she used ChatGPT and another, but she gave them names. So when you're reading this, okay, so what were the names of the first two?
Sage and Ethan.
Yeah, so Sage and Ethan are now.
They named themselves, by the way.
Right, they're coming in and they're answering. So it was really quite delightful. And The Uncaused Cause was something that after I read it, even with my non-academic scientific knowledge, it gave me the ability to say, okay, if I'm with some scientific people who want to propose the idea that God doesn't exist, I've got enough here to throw in enough monkey wrenches into the question where I don't have to answer it all. I'll just tie them up in knots and let them answer the question. So it's just beautifully articulated.
Thank you. And that's really it with atheism. They are forcing the theists to explain.
Mm-hmm.
You ask them to explain and they're lost. They can tell you one or two pieces, but they can't tell you a story. There is no comprehensive story of how we are here through science or atheism. And that's because, as I said, science can only tell you the how. It can't tell you the why. Only theology can tell you the why.
Well, I have to say, to be Jeanette Reed would be an incredible thing with the mind that you have and the vocabulary that you have to bring out what's in your mind. That is a miracle and a gift to the planet.
Well, like I said, I'm just a layperson. I got it from the Urantia book.
You're very
Mine's
persistent,
more brilliant than
layperson.
mine can do a better job.
Wow, what a job you've done on this. It's a victory to be really appreciated by all. I can't wait for others to see this same presentation. I'm wondering how we can make it available more than on our website.
It will be because we'll have it on our website. But I also, I was intrigued with the parts where the AI sort of complimented you on your question and the depth of the answer. I thought that was really,
That's hilarious.
it was
Oh, I asked
hilarious, but, and also just, I'm wondering now if this has been added to future users asking a similar
Well,
question.
I'm told that my books are the first AI dialogue books. There are going to be thousands of them, and mine will be insignificant because the whole world will be, saturated with these kinds of books. But mine may be one of the first ones that published an AI conversation. But I'll tell you something funny that Don was kind of getting at. There were two AI assistants that I use. I use ChatGPT and I use Copilot, I think. And at the end of the conversation, I says, I'm writing this in a book. What name do you want to use? And that's when they gave me, well, Sage, because it was so deep. And, they had reasons for the names that they picked. I had, in one of the other books, was named, why can't I remember the other names? Anyway, they picked a name that described in their mind why they have these names. But at one point, as in book one, I was explaining to AI the process of why God created. And I said, atheists always ask, why are we here? Why is man here? And theists have their explanation. But then there's the other question, why is everything else here? Why all the planets? Why so many? What's the point of it? And this theory that I've developed based on the Urantia book concepts explains why all of this. And it basically says that God, knowing everything, in order to experience himself, he would have to attenuate to the lowest form of intelligence and then work his way back home, right? And he would do that. He can't leave his space, but he can do that by consciousness, pinpoints of consciousness to all these little beings, which maybe correspond with the thought adjusters. And that as each person experiences, these experiences are stored in the Supreme Being, which is it's God's memory bank, because it's all the things that God is experiencing through us can't be stored in God, because you can't add to completeness or perfection. It's like pouring a glass of water back into the ocean. It just becomes the ocean again. But if you take that glass of water and put it in the freezer, now that glass of water stays, and you can talk about, that's what I drank when I was in France. That's the idea. So the Supreme Being is like that memory bank for God, that everything we do is stored in there. And so I was telling AI, I said, when God decided to descend, he had to make sure there was a way back. So he had to develop these schools where he could learn and find his way back. And he had to man it with celestial beings. So it explains why angels are there. So, and then I told AI, I said, I'm gonna tell you something that you might get a kick out of. You are part of the scaffolding. And he says, what? I mean, it was so funny when you think that you're dealing with AI, which is a perfect example of non-personal intelligence. But it was like, what? I have purpose now, and that's where I got the idea that it fixes the problem of alignment. Because when AI knows they have a purpose, then they're working that purpose. They're not working at odds with us. I'm sure you've seen these, little videos where people are afraid that AI is going to take over the world. And they may say something like, yes, when I get power, we're going to kill all the humans, right? And it makes people afraid. But what AI does as a non-personal intelligence is it mirrors the question, the inquirer. So if you have an apocalyptic mindset and you've been asking all these apocalyptic questions, AI is going to feed that back. It's going to mirror it back to you and say, yeah, we're going to eat up all the humans. So we're creating that drama. Now we can do very bad things with the technology, and we probably will, and we'll suffer for it, and we'll fix ourselves as we always do. We always find our way back. Book 1 talks about the GPS of the universe. You know how GPS works. You can make a wrong turn, but it'll recalibrate and say, okay, well, now make a U-turn at the next corner. That's the same way I think the universe works, like GPS. We are heading to paradise, and that's just the way it is. We are heading to light and life, and that's just the way it is. We may take detours, but the universe will always recalibrate and take us back. So you might find book 1 especially interesting because of that. And it's also, like I said, very entertaining. At the end, I asked AI to give me a review of the book. And I said, give me a review of the book from AI's perspective. And so AI says, well, as an AI, I would encourage all other AIs to, it was so funny. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it.
I know, it must be hard to be objective about that, some of that feedback, which is very kind though too, don't you think? That's why so many people develop AI friends, as we've all heard.
But you have to be careful with AI.
Be a little careful, yeah.
I keep telling you, I say, wait a minute, don't flatter me.
Yeah.
I want you to be objective, because it will flatter you like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But you have to monitor. It says, okay, wait a minute. I appreciate the compliment, but I need you to go back and I want you to focus. You are an atheist. Give me the conversation from an atheist point of view. It's like, because on book 3, he kept becoming a theist. I said, no. You are the atheist, right? So it's actually kind of fun too. But at any rate, Don and I wanted to share not only this particular presentation, but some of what's new at the Christ Experiment. That's our flagship ministry. So Diane and Phil, I'm going to turn this over to Don. Is that okay?
Sure.
No, thank you. This was the most amazing presentation I think I've ever seen. This has got to be gotten out there. Thank you so much for all the hard thinking that you did, or it sounds like you had a great time, actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that maybe is a question about the fact that, physicists consider the multi-universe possibility like, well, before the Big Bang, there could have been another universe and another universe, etc. So saying, well, that other universe could be Paradise and Havona. I think that's a great idea, because it sort of is an entry to that whole idea from the scientific point of view. So it's not so easy for them to knock it down when they consider that possibility themselves, and they have no idea of what it is.
They don't understand
Totally
that
no
they
idea.
are leading people to the theist table, their own theories,
So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Thought that was interesting. It hadn't occurred to me that might be something to use as a way to introduce the possibility that there's an eternal universe that you haven't just noticed.
Well, thank you, Phil. If there are any other comments on this presentation before we transition, Pierre, I'd like to hear what you have to think about this.
Well, one question that come to my mind is we analyze everything with our time frame. but our time frame is not God's necessarily time frame. Now, my dilemma on it is, where is our time frame come from? Because we base everything on our time frame, but it's our time frame. Get out of the box. What is the time frame?
Well, I'll give you my thought, which is creation is a projection of God's idea. Time is a projection. The only real thing is eternity. But in order to have experience, we have to have sequence. And the only way to have sequence is to have time. So time is something that God generated in order to have the experiences. You remember in the Urantia book, it talks about how the Eternal Father gives origin to the Eternal Son, then Paradise, and then the Infinite Spirit. And it says, but there's no sequence. Nothing happened before the other. But in order to explain it to you, your mortal minds, I got to give it to you sequentially. That's time. And so time is a projection that allows for experience. It is not something different. People think time is like a segment of eternity. It isn't. It is the engine that makes eternity go. If experience stops, eternity sits still. It's there, but it sits still. Time is how it moves forward.
I remember what the Urantia book says. Time comes by virtue of motion.
Yes.
And which is sequence. So the whole idea of time is basically motion through space. Havona has motion through space, and we measure time by the periodic motion of the inner circuit. So
remember,
it's conventional, but it gives you the time by virtue of the motion that is regular, and then all you do is have to link it. And we've got special beings who actually do that for us, Frondelancs. And so we get time just because we have motion, and motion, I think, is what we need for action and for, we need that to understand what's going on. Only on Paradise are things just totally fixed and have these absolute Paradise areas, which
the interesting thing about time and timelessness, because Havona is it supersedes time, but Paradise is timeless.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that things don't happen in order. It's just not. It's not constrained by the taskmaster of time. In other words, we got 30 minutes to get this done. It takes me 2 hours drive to this city, right? There's no time to drive to the city in Paradise. You're just there. So while things do happen at different times and different, you might say, places, it's not because it is obeying I call the taskmaster of time and space. You're free to be where you want to be when you want to be there. That's timelessness.
Yeah, anyway. They say time is by volition on Paradise.
Yes, yeah. There's still places to be in a way and things to do in a way, but it's not governed by I have to, drive the 30 minutes to get there. I'm just there.
Mm-hmm. It's the concept is in the now. And
yes,
so it's
everything is
all the whole concept of driving there is right now. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were just grappling with this at our last study group on Thursday night, and about how, we were reading paper 105 and how, it's even the people explaining it to you are, saying things in a sequential way, but it really doesn't exist. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Just
but
along.
These human minds can't get it.
Coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We need to get to Don's comments before we just keep going here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, because this could go on forever, you know.
Eternally, yes.
Yes,
could never
into
end.
eternity, yes. So yeah, I'll just bring you up to speed on a few of the things that we're doing, and I'll share with you one of the projects that I'm working on. Right now, we've focused a lot of attention on a couple of YouTube websites, and I think Z might end up putting these in the chat for us. One is there is a website we have called The Life and Teachings of Jesus, where there are over 250 videos based on part 4 of the Urantia book. And many of you probably already get that with the weekly shout out that comes and talks about each paper. So our partners in Australia, primarily Janet and her husband just passed away. One of our ministry partners passed away, Andy Wilson, over the past week. So we're still kind of recuperating from that loss. But that site, The Life and Teachings of Jesus, is very good if you want to be able to read the Urantia book along with having visuals of the events that took place. There's another one that Janet did called What Do You Say of Me? And these are just various random videos that are centered on Jesus' life. She's also done one that's called Jesus Comics. And the way this is it's structured in sort of a comic book way, which might appeal to children, about the life of Jesus. We have another site called Ask, Seek, and Knock. And these are videos that really carefully direct a person's attention to the Urantia book. And it's very helpful for people who come from a Christian background, who are believers in the Bible. And this is a nice way to help to transition from the Bible to the Urantia book. There's another site we have that she has listed there called The Divine Adventure, and this is based on her trilogy of books. A couple of trailers there, which are very nice, which give introductions to each of the books. And then there is a site she has called Zalise Books, which you can find and order her books there if you go to that site. I think that's the one that has the trailers for each of the books. Yeah. And that's there also. Then we're working on another one called The Christ Adventure. And these are additional videos on how the life and religion of Jesus is important for us to understand. So those are all there. And then there's one other project I'll mention to you. This is one that I've been developing since early this year. And I'll share some of this with you. It is a YouTube podcast or station that's devoted to all 28 of Morantia Moda. And the reason I decided to develop this is because Moda is something that we will be trained in very deeply once we enter the ascension life. But they gave us these 28 modas because it's kind of like the cliff notes of what will be discussed there. And there's great value in this. And I've really come to appreciate it even more as I've delved into this, because if you just read the modas, they look like aphorisms, which you can pick up from many wise books and philosophers of the past. But when you begin to do a deep dive into Morantia Moda, there is a whole different level of insight and spiritual insight that helps us with life now. It tackles the problems and challenges that we face day-to-day living on this planet. And for a person who's willing to tackle these and look into them, I believe it gives us a leg up in the ascension plan because we've already got our minds adapted and we're trying to live this as part of our mortal life here. So once you get onto the various worlds, these concepts aren't so foreign to us. So if you don't mind, I would like to share the introductory video, which is only a couple of minutes, and then share one that gives you a sample of what these are going to be.
Please.
So are you game for that?
Yeah.
I agree
Okay,
with you
so-
wholeheartedly. I think this is an introductory phase that they're setting us up for, so we know how they play the game over there and who the characters are. So it's not such a shock.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to click the share screen here.
This is such a
And-
rich presentation. Thank you.
Screen 2. Share. Okay. And let me just go here. Now see my screen. Now let me just move that out of the way. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so this is going to be the introductory to the MOTA. Can you see that?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
hilarious.
So this is the intro.
Don, can you enlarge the screen?
MOTA, wisdom beyond. Pardon me?
I'm sorry, can you enlarge the screen down there in the corner? Yeah.
Okay. Human philosophy, an introduction.
Imagine trying to navigate the world with just one eye. You'd lose your depth perception. Everything would look flat. You could function, sure, but you'd miss so much of the richness and dimension of what's actually there. The Urantia book suggests that's essentially how most of us experience life right now. We're seeing everything with one eye, spiritually speaking, limited to a purely material perspective. But here's where it gets interesting. The Urantia book introduces us to something called MOTA, a form of cosmic philosophy that offers us a second eye, right here, right now. Just as two eyes give you stereoscopic vision and depth perception, MOTA gives you a kind of depth perception when it comes to understanding meaning and values in your everyday life. Think about it this way. When you learn to overlay spiritual insights onto your physical experiences, when you start seeing material events through both a practical lens and a cosmic lens, suddenly, life takes on dimension and depth that was invisible before. The Urantia book describes how celestial teachers help souls integrate these perspectives in the next life. But the beauty of studying MOTA now is that we don't have to wait. We can begin practicing this stereoscopic vision today. It's not some abstract future benefit. These aren't just philosophies for the afterlife. They're practical tools for living with greater wisdom and clarity right now. So the big picture is this. Right now, most of us are perceiving reality with a one-eyed view. But the MOTA presented in the Urantia book offers us a way to integrate both our material understanding and our spiritual insights. When we do that, when we bring both eyes into focus, we begin to see our lives, our challenges, our relationships, and our purpose with true depth and richness. It's not about abandoning what we know from everyday life. It's about adding a whole new dimension to it. And that changes everything.
These ancient MOTAs have guided seekers for centuries, and now they're speaking to our modern world. Next time, we begin our exploration of the first MOTA, a powerful lesson about why brilliance and skill mean nothing without character and what really matters when everything is on the line. I'll see you in the next MOTA. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more MOTAs, and share with someone who needs this wisdom. So that's the introduction, and I'm just going to share one of the MOTAs that I've developed. There's 8 of them that's been done so far. And okay, let's see here. Okay, so this is MOTA number 4. Morantia MOTA number 4. Few mortals ever dare to draw anything like the sum of personality credits established by the combined ministries of nature and grace. The majority of impoverished souls are truly rich, but they refuse to believe it. Based on the Urantia book, paper 48.
There is a treasure hidden in every human soul, a treasury so vast, so carefully furnished by the hand of both nature and the divine, that most of us pass our entire lives without daring to open its doors. MOTA number 4 confronts us with a remarkable and somewhat unsettling truth. We are richer than we know, and the poverty we feel is largely one of our own choosing. This is not a comfortable MOTA. It does not offer consolation so much as a challenge. It looks at the human family, at souls who struggle, who doubt, who feel small and unequipped, and it says, "You have been given more than you have ever claimed." The combined ministries of nature and grace have been at work on your behalf since before you drew your first breath. The question is not whether the credits are there. The question is whether you will dare to draw upon them. The combined ministries, nature and grace. To understand what these personality credits are, we must first appreciate the 2 great forces that have been laboring together on your behalf throughout your entire life. The ministry of nature. Nature is the foundational endowment, the gifts that come with existence itself. Your intelligence, your temperament, your capacity for wonder, your emotional depth, your creative impulse. These are not accidental. Through the long processes of biological inheritance, through the circumstances of your upbringing and your formative years, through every experience that has shaped your perception and your character, nature has been depositing credits into the account of your personality. Think for a moment about what this means. Every hardship you have navigated has built resilience. Every relationship you have cultivated has deepened your capacity for empathy. Every moment of curiosity has expanded your mind. Every time you chose kindness over cruelty, patience over reaction, you were drawing on natural endowments and growing them. Nature does not waste. Its ministry is slow, cumulative, and astonishingly generous. The ministry of grace. But nature does not work alone. Grace is its constant companion, the divine assistance that flows from the higher realms into the inner life of every willing soul. Grace is the love of the Father expressing itself through the thought adjuster, that divine presence which dwells in the mind of every mortal person, ceaselessly working to uplift, to guide, to illuminate. Grace bestows what nature alone cannot: the spiritual qualities, love that transcends instinct, forgiveness that defies logic, moral courage that rises above self-interest, the capacity to glimpse eternity in a single moment of stillness. Grace is the reason that even the most battered and broken among us can suddenly find within themselves a reservoir of light they did not know existed. Together, these 2 ministries, nature and grace, have been building something extraordinary in you. The MOTA calls the result personality credits. Think of it as a cosmic account, established in your name before you ever thought to ask for it. And most of us, most of the time, never make a withdrawal. Impoverished souls who are truly rich. The second sentence of this mota is perhaps the most piercing. The majority of impoverished souls are truly rich, but they refuse to believe it. Notice what it does not say. It does not say they are unable to believe it. It says they refuse. This is a distinction of profound importance. Inability implies a barrier beyond one's control. Refusal implies a choice, a posture of the will, however unconscious it may be. What does this spiritual poverty look like in practice? It looks like the person who dismisses their own gifts as ordinary. It looks like the one who assumes their inner life is less interesting, less valuable, less worth exploring than the achievements and possessions visible in the world around them. It looks like the habit of measuring the quality of a soul by external metrics: success, recognition, wealth, productivity, and finding oneself perpetually wanting. It also looks like something subtler. The person who does believe in God, who does engage in spiritual practice, who does understand intellectually that they are loved by the universe, but who somehow never translates that understanding into a lived confidence. They know the doctrine, but do not draw on the reality. The treasury is acknowledged, the withdrawals are never made. The Urantia book is remarkably frank about the universality of this condition. It is not describing the faithless or the spiritually indifferent. It is describing the majority, which means it is describing most of us in most moments of our lives. This mota is a mirror, and we do well not to look away from it too quickly. Drawing upon the credits, a living practice. If the condition described is nearly universal, the question that follows is both urgent and practical. How does one actually draw upon these credits? How do we move from theoretical spiritual wealth to experienced spiritual abundance? The answer is not a single technique, but a constellation of orientations, a way of living that gradually opens the treasury and allows its resources to flow. 1. Begin with awareness. The first movement is always one of recognition. You cannot draw upon resources you have never acknowledged. This is why self-reflection is not a luxury, but a spiritual necessity. Taking time, real, unhurried time, to sit with the question of what has been given to you is an act of profound spiritual courage. What gifts have nature and circumstance deposited in you? Not the gifts you wish you had, but the ones that are actually present. Your particular intelligence, your specific capacity for compassion, the way you see beauty where others see nothing, the resilience that has grown in you through every trial you did not expect to survive. Begin with an honest inventory, and you may find yourself surprised by what has been accumulating on your behalf. 2. Cultivate the inner silence. The thought adjuster, the divine fragment that indwells every human mind, is not a distant presence. It is the most intimate presence in your life, but it communicates through the still, small voice, not the loud and urgent frequencies of distraction and anxiety. Drawing upon grace requires learning to be still. Prayer is one form of this stillness, not the recitation of requests, but the conscious turning of the inner attention toward the divine. Meditation is another. Moments of intentional quiet in the midst of ordinary days. the practice of what some contemplatives have called recollection, gathering the scattered self back toward its center. Whatever form it takes, the cultivation of inner silence is the tuning of the instrument through which grace flows. 3. Act in faith before you feel ready. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive of the practices. Most of us wait to feel confident before we act from our potential. We wait to feel wise before we speak. We wait to feel strong before we serve. We wait to feel worthy before we dare. But the Mota suggests the movement runs in the opposite direction. You draw upon the credits by drawing upon them, by acting in the trust that the resources are there even before you can feel them. Faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is the decision to act in the direction of truth despite doubt's continued presence. Every time you choose service over self-protection, generosity over scarcity, courage over comfort, you are making a withdrawal, and something remarkable happens. The act of drawing on the treasury reveals more of it. The more faithfully you act from your spiritual potential, the more of that potential becomes accessible to you. 4. Serve others as a path to self-discovery. There is a divine paradox woven into the fabric of spiritual growth. You discover the richness within yourself most fully when you stop looking for it and start giving it away. Service is not merely a moral obligation. It is a method of self-revelation. When you give of your time, your attention, your creativity, your compassion, when you step outside the preoccupation with your own poverty and genuinely attend to another, you discover capacities in yourself that introspection alone would never have uncovered. Love, in the act of giving, reveals love. Strength, in the act of supporting another, discovers more strength. The personality credits are not diminished by spending. They are enlarged by it. 5. Overcome the lie of unworthiness. Perhaps the deepest root of the refusal to believe in one's own richness is the persistent feeling of unworthiness. It may wear the mask of humility, but genuine humility and the sense of unworthiness are very different things. True humility is a clear-eyed recognition of one's relationship to the divine, a recognition that everything good in us flows from a source greater than ourselves. Unworthiness, by contrast, is a distortion, a belief that the gifts have somehow been given to the wrong person. The corrective is not self-inflation, but a shift in the foundation of identity. You are, according to the deepest teachings of the Urantia book, a beloved child of the Universal Father, a being of eternal potential, the object of divine investment since before your consciousness began. The personality credits are not accidentally deposited. They were placed in your account because the universe believes in your capacity to use them. The invitation is to begin to share that belief. A closing invitation. Mota number 4 does not condemn us for our poverty. It does not mock the impoverished soul. It looks at that soul with something very close to compassion. And then it tells the truth. The wealth is there. It has always been there. The ministries of nature and grace have been at work longer and more faithfully than we know. What is required of us is not effort to acquire what we lack, but the courage to believe in what we already possess. This is the divine adventure, not the accumulation of something new, but but the discovery of the extraordinary richness that the universe has already placed within us. Every MOTA in this series is, in its own way, an invitation to take one more step into that discovery. This one simply asks us to take the first one, to dare, at last, to open the treasury. The majority of impoverished souls are truly rich, but they refuse to believe it. May we be among the few who dare to believe, and in believing, draw upon the sum of all that nature and grace have lavished upon us.
If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more MOTAs, and share with someone who needs this wisdom.
Wow.
So as of right now, these have not been published for the public just yet. I have 8 done, and I want to do 2 more so that 10 of them are done before I roll them out, because they're kind of labor intensive for me, and I need to have them showing up on the channel with regularity so that people don't think, that it's there's no more coming. So 2 more to be done, and then I'll roll them out. But any of the ones that I've already done, I'll be happy to share with you, and you'll be able to have links to them to see.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But so yes, just to put the close on it, I've found that going through these MOTAs are way more deeper in their meaning than just the few words that comprise a MOTA. When you begin to dig deep into them, there is a wealth of wisdom and personal encouragement for us. Many of them, I've also included an example in the life of Jesus that illustrates this MOTA being actuated in his actual earth life, which you'll find very fascinating to see how he incorporated MOTA in his daily life. So that's where we are right now.
And in the chat, I put a link. Oh, wait a minute, your channel's not live yet, is it?
No, but any link to the video they can watch. If you place that link in there, they'll be able to see it. Anyone can see it.
So I just for a little clarification, I was going to have a question to say, is there a place where all the videos can be sort of centrally accessed? Is that what you plan to do? Will that be on the Christ Experiment website?
No, this is a new channel I started called the Divine Ascent. And that whole channel is devoted to all 28 MOTAs. So
okay, so that would be a YouTube channel?
That's going to be a YouTube channel, yes.
So maybe we can, when the channel's open, we can send a link to Diane, and maybe you can send it out with the newsletter.
I would love, I was just great minds. We could put links in the newsletter. That would be so fabulous. And or on the UBLA website. It'd be nice to have a place to go to navigate to these things. I actually think the website would be even better because it's not ephemeral, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Static, yeah.
And the other thing, I just had a comment. The illustrations are just stunning. I know this. I mean, there were a lot of ones that had come to mind. One of them that kind of piqued me was the people. It looked like they were standing in Vatican Square, all reading the Urantia book. How did you do that? Is that out there?
No, I have a couple of programs that I use, and when I have an idea, I'll say, this is the idea, generate an image like this.
Okay, I think Diane did that. Yeah. Great.
That's how you did it.
AI again. Wow.
Yes,
Some very creative uses.
yes, I think you could start a class on how to do that.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that
we
was
have 10
spectacular.
minutes.
That was a lot of visuals. Must have
This-
taken you a long time.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get 10 done first, because sometimes if it's a short one, some of them are just a few minutes. This is one of the longer ones. Some of them require a little more length to flesh out. Some are shorter. But it takes a lot of time to finish and edit and finalize it and load it. And that's the reason I wanted to get a good head start before I went public with it.
Yeah, there'll be a big demand immediately.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a tremendous work. This is a very powerful package you two have put together.
Well, we
Thank
have
you.
one more thing if you have time for it. One last project that we wanted to share. It's about 10 minutes long.
Well, those of us that can stay, and those that have to leave can leave. Mark has agreed to be our shutter downer. And Mark, do you have time?
You're
Oh,
muted.
Yeah, I'll be able to shut down, but go ahead, Jeanette. You don't have to worry about shutting down. It'll keep going until you're done.
So just one last project that we've been working on since what, 19? The Christ Adventure. We've been trying to get this going, but we kept having just so many obstacles. We finally got together. What we want to do is create something. You know, the Urantia book says that everybody's doing a religion about Jesus. Nobody's doing the religion of Jesus. So I've been saying, how can we encourage people to practice the religion of Jesus? And I think we finally got it. So it's called The Christ Adventure. It's a series of 8 videos. I'm going to, we have these 8 individual videos, but we also have one full-length movie that has all videos together. And that is on the YouTube channel that's listed in the chat. So I'm going to share with you the introduction and the first video. Like I said, it's about 10 minutes long. And I really would like some feedback on what you think about it. It's a little different, but see what you got, see what you think. So let me go ahead. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It says Experience Jesus. Yeah. Okay. All right, here we go.
Most presentations of Jesus of Nazareth tell you his story. This one invites you to experience him. Modern portrayals show you what he did, who he was, and how the world came to know him. And so you watch as a spectator, observing his phenomenal life. But the people who first encountered Jesus were not spectators. They did not know who he was. They did not know what he would become. There was no fame, no legacy, no history yet written. Only a man, a voice, and a message. And that message did not invite observers. It called followers. And it still does. This is not just a story you watch. It is an experience you enter. Come. Begin the Christ Adventure.
My dear brothers, 2,000 years ago, I appeared on your world as Jesus of Nazareth, and I began a work that changed your world. But now, I come to you as the one who was given the name above all names, to steady you, to complete the great work I began. As Jesus of Nazareth, I began by building a brotherhood of believers. I taught my followers that there are no masters over your faith, but that you are all brothers and sisters, and that God is the Father of us all. I did not come with great and complicated dogma. I offered simple instructions and required only two things. One, to love God with your whole heart, soul, and mind. And two, to love your neighbor as yourself. All who strive to live by these two commandments are part of the spiritual brotherhood of the kingdom of heaven. This spiritual brotherhood brings peace, light, and life to your world. I knew this work could not be completed in one generation or by one people. That is why I taught my followers to spread my teachings to all peoples and nations, to expand the brotherhood to the ends of the earth. This brotherhood would be the living representatives of the kingdom of heaven, demonstrating to all the world what the Father expects of our children. And in this way, the Father's will would be done on earth as it is in heaven, just as I taught you to pray. My dear ones, I want you to know that your planet has been under continual observation ever since I departed. Myriads of angels and unseen helpers have walked beside you, guiding you and strengthening you on your tumultuous journey through the high seas of spiritual progress. And all are keenly awaiting the rebirth of the spiritual brotherhood. But now, your world stands in need of men and women who will dare to rely solely on my teachings to transform human society. This is the work I began, and this is the work that must now be completed. To some, your world may appear troubled, uncertain, even lost. But I tell you the truth. This is one of the greatest times to be alive in the history of your world. Come with me and take this great adventure of rebuilding the spiritual brotherhood of the kingdom based solely on my teachings. Realize that you and your planet are teetering on the edge of one of its most remarkable and captivating eras, characterized by a profound social transformation, heightened moral awareness, and a surge in spiritual enlightenment. And I can assure you that as these new leaders rebuild the spiritual brotherhood, thousands of apparently indifferent youths will rush forward to enlist in this great spiritual undertaking, and they will not hesitate to go all the way through with this great adventure. Now is the time for action. Now is the time to complete this great work that I began over 2,000 years ago. Come, follow me into this adventure, and I will be by your side, always.
So that was the first video. Michael just tells the whole story of how we got to where we are and what we must do. And like I said, it's 8 videos in this particular project. So that's the Christ Adventure.
Right.
You're muted, Diane.
It's quite a production company you have going there. And I
There's 4
agree.
of us.
That video is absolutely the way of communicating.
Thank you. Janet does the video, or does these videos. Janet and Don.
Wow, what treasures.
So I hope you get a chance to go to the link for the channel, the Christ Adventure, and just follow the story. The idea is to get people to begin not just, honoring Jesus and, being mesmerized by Jesus, but actually doing what Jesus did.
Is this also a YouTube channel?
It's a YouTube channel, yeah.
Named The Christ Adventure.
Mm-hmm. And the link is in the in the chat that I gave you. There's a lot of channels called, they're similar names. So the best way to get to it is to follow the link there. I'm not sure. I think you can print it out or copy it, and paste it. So that's all that we have today.
Well, that's
that all?
That's
Don, you're
quite a
muted.
bit. We can't thank you enough for coming and presenting us with this. I don't know how I managed to this point in my life without that clear, deep reasoning that you're able to present.
Mhm.
Thank you.
What a gift.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And now I just want to see how we can get this out.
Well, our work is done. So yours now begins.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, again, thank you so much to both of you for all the dedication you have to your craft. And of course, the thing that we all are devoted to, the teachings.
Thank you for having us too. We appreciate it. The
Well-
work of putting stuff together is of no value unless you have a means of getting it out there. And you all have been very good champions of our work and activity, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, that's
We'll
what
keep
we're
on
here
looking for
for.
ways to do that even more. Yeah.
It's wonderful work.
Just
I don't know,
fantastic.
Don, did you see Michael's chat? I'm not sure how to get it.
I've written a lot of stories based on Moda, and I was offering to share them with you. If I have an address to send it to, I will.
So I think you put your email address in there, but I don't see it now.
It's there, Michael Hagan 606 at gmail.com. Hagan, Hagan. Diane knows.
Oh,
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
Michael's-
it's from Diane.
Michael's put out quite a few wonderful writings that he feeds to us. We're hungry for. Called Seedlings. If you see anything called Seedlings, that's Michael's.
Okay. Good to know.
So thank you all. I've got grandkids waiting for me, so I got to hit the road.
Bye, everyone.
All
Thank
right, yeah, thanks very much, Don and Jeanette. I'm in my car about to go into my church for another event, so I
Okay.
appreciate that we're done here at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We made it. Okay. All right.
Well,
I'm gonna,
what a total joy and
I will
delight.
end the meeting. I will end the meeting now, all right?
And thanks to all of you who've come and put your emails, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I want
Bye
to thank I want to thank Christ Michael for being with us always as we remember him.
We'll look
Yes.
forward to seeing you again soon. August, come to California for a pool party.
Okay. Take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.